There are many mysteries in the universe, or so the articles on the internet would have you believe. Algorithm Universe does not leave anything unexplained from the space forward. Algorithm Universe theory allows us to look at least some distance before space. The list of Algorithm Universe explained phenomena is the list of phenomena. AUT replaces thermodynamics and entropy with a supersymmetry that redefines dimension, time, and force. It provides proofs both mathematically and based on observation. AUT is intuitive, mathematical, and supported by observation. This presentation will present with a short description the pre-AUT unexplained Forget everything you know about space and dimension. AUT proves that all CT states continue with their initial dimensional existence. Space, for example, has no dimension. Photons have a single dimension, waves have two dimensions, and we live in a four-dimensional state that includes a time reference, which is an effect and not part of the fourth dimension. When we look at space, or photons, or waves, we see them in three dimensions because from our three-dimensional perspective, we can see these lesser dimensional states bunched up and entangled like a knotted ball of yarn, which remains a string despite being bunched up. No attempt is made to completely unravel space here. You can see that in books 1, 2, and 8. Instead, a sample of the model is given to provide insight. Folding is the idea that you can match positive and negative values with at least some intervening trapped, unmatched lower CT states. This is how you get from a string to a knotted ball of yarn. In transitioning from non-dimensional space to one-dimensional CT2 states, which we call photons, or the point particle value of the wave-particle duality, which is the photon-wave appearance from our point of reference. You take a non-dimensional state and give it dimension, which we would call dark energy. The string straightens up or becomes unknotted. Each release of CT1 is velocity as well. If space builds up gradually from a non-dimensional state to a one-dimensional state and then to increasingly larger dimensional states, what does that tell us about the Big Bang and the background radiation, which has been used for years as evidence of the Big Bang? The answer to this question is that there was no Big Bang. The amount of information in the universe is steadily increasing as X increases. This steady increase does not allow for a Big Bang type result or for the background radiation which is observed. Instead, the nature of the f pi x process of staggering the increasingly large number of information states, along with compression and decompression, the folding and unfolding of lower CT states into higher CT states or lower dimensional states into higher dimensional states, provides the inflection points where the universe has a net positive or net negative state, where the net positive refers to a net compression universe and the net negative refers to a net expanding universe. In localized solutions, it can be compressing in an expanding universe, or it can be expanding in a compressing universe, but the overall effect is that the universe is expanding for long periods of time and then compressing for long periods of time, creating a series of increasingly larger expansion periods followed by increasingly larger contracting periods. At no point in time does the universe fully contract. There is no infinitely small hot ball of material which explodes into In order to understand black holes and their place in the universe, it's important to understand how dimension comes to exist. Dimension in algorithm universe theory is based on mathematical place in a Fibonacci series of numbers. This requires looking at the numbering system in a different base than base 10, and instead having a numbering system based on Fibonacci numbering. Just as in base 10 you add zeros, so too in algorithm universe theory you add another place, ones place, tens place, hundreds place, etc. for each state of compression, although these numbers have more to do with the Fibonacci series of numbers than with a base 10, which is a random system based on the number of fingers or toes that people have. Each place after CT1 adds a dimension. So CT1 is dimensionless, CT2 has one dimension, CT3 has two dimensions, and CT1 is a single place, CT2 is two places, and CT3 is three places, and so on. Transitions between these places are represented by compression, and the best way to represent the compression is by using information arms, which exponentially fill from one arm to the next with the next lower state. CT5 arms serve as a model for explaining the alignment of neutrons to form the next compression state in the 10,000s place, having four dimensions. The total number of neutrons theoretically composing a perfect black hole would be 16 to the 32nd neutrons. All dimensions exist together. CT1 space remains dimensionless even when viewed from the perspective of 4 or 5 dimensions. Similarly, CT2 photons remain one-dimensional and CT3 waves remain two-dimensional. We see these as three-dimensional because of our perspective and because of the folding which occurs by virtue of higher CT states existing on either side of the next lower CT state. Molecular existence is a mix of the CT3, 4, 5 transitions. The information of history appears to come from the waves kept along the CT3, 4 interface and perfectly aligned along CT4 information arms, probably between CT4-7 and CT4-9. CT4-7 is 7 information arms filled, and CT4-9 is 9 arms filled, which combine Wave-particle duality is the idea that when we look at energy, it seems to have the features of waves and particles. The slit test and other experiments in order to explain this phenomenon in pre-AUT math are covered in books 7 and 8, along with an explanation of why those types of tests would not help provide an explanation of what we are looking at. Part of the problem in pre-AUT physics is that pre-AUT physics, while understanding vaguely that there was a particle aspect and a wave aspect, failed to understand what those represented. In order to understand this, we need to look at the first 3 states of information as we experience it. Space, CT1, which is dimensionless, but which is separated by solution order. CT2, or photons, which exist as one-dimensional features, and where the transition from the non-dimensional space to the one-dimensional photons is where gravity is experienced, since you're taking a system which has no dimension and therefore no place for gravity to pull, and adding a dimension which allows for gravity to pull back towards the non-dimensional state. And finally, CT3 are waves which exist in 2 dimensions. The particle CT2 can be seen as a dot on a piece of paper, and a line or wave on that same piece of paper would represent the CT3 or wave form of the information. All of these exist in a time-independent environment because time is only a feature of the CT3, CT4 transition.